Right, we're on holding by the Book of Leviticus chapter 17. Again, we're on holding by the Book of Leviticus chapter 17. We are still in verse 10. We'll see if we finish it up today. Again, we are holding by Book of Leviticus chapter 17, verse 10. Torah says, "Ish mi beis Yisrael min agar b'soichom sher yochal kol dam nasati fanai benefesh ocheles Es Adam v'chorati oisa mikerev Amma." So here the Torah says, Torah tells me, whatsoever man, right, ish, double language, we mentioned before, there be of the house of Israel, or the strangers sojourn among you, eat any blood, I will even set my face against that soul that eats blood, I will cut him off among his people. So we spoke last week about this idea being cut off, and why in this case the only person being cut off is the person who eats the blood, right? And essentially what I have is the Or Chaim HaKadosh said that it's talking about the person who ate blood, not the community, right? We're talking about not the community. So I spoke about community, spoke about all that. It's one other aspect that I do want to see. Right, that the Or Chaim HaKadosh over here says, right, and here the end of the verse, right, the end of verse 10 says, "V'nasati fanai benefesh ocheles es Adam v'chrati oiso mikerev Amma." So here it says that any soul eats the blood, I'm going to cut him off among his people. Sorry, I'm going to cut him off from among his people. Now, this would seem to say, and the question came up a few times, and that is, it would seem that anybody who eats it, right? Because any soul that eats it, right? Anyone who lives amongst you, who's going to eat blood? It's going to be non-Jews, right? But we know non-Jews are allowed to eat blood, right? So the whole question, exactly what that means, that we spoke about. But from the end of the verse, I have clear logic, right? What is clear logic? What does clear logic over here tell me? That the Torah says over here that you're going to get spiritually cut off mikerev Amma, from, are they translated here? From amongst your people, right? Among his people. Now, the Torah seems clear what it's talking about. It's talking about a Jew, right? And I got a lot of flack for that. People say, "Oh, non-Jews can eat blood." Yeah, right? So what do you do? The stranger lives amongst you. Very good. But even logically, right? I mentioned this before. Even logically speaking, the end of the verse says among his people. Who is God's people? Jews. We're still chosen, regardless of what the Christians say, regardless of what the Muslims say, right? We're still chosen. We're still his people, whether we do the right thing or wrong thing. So here, the end of the verse says he's going to get spiritually cut off. Who's the person going to get spiritually cut off? Singular. Person who eats the blood, not the community. But who's going to get cut off? The people among his people. So if a non-Jew eats blood, he's going to get spiritually cut off? Doesn't say that. Right? Simple explanation is mikerev Amma means his people. God's people. Right? Nothing has changed. We're still chosen. So getting spiritually cut off applies to Jews. Non-Jews can get obliterated if they don't keep the 7 no-hide laws. Or there are about 50, 60, let's say, all together. Right? There are no-hide laws. Person liable for a death penalty if they don't repent, right? If they don't do tshuva, so they will be liable for a death penalty. Obviously, not for everything, right? But they will be liable for a death penalty. So it's kind of strange because the Torah says a number of places, right? You desecrate Shabbos in public, a Jew desecrates Shabbos in public, death penalty, and you get spiritually cut off. A Jew that would eat 11 product on Passover, right? Chametz, gets spiritually cut off, right? A lot of things that a Jew would get spiritually cut off for. Who says that applies to a non-Jew? If a non-Jew is deserving the death penalty, they don't repent for transgressing Noahide laws. They're not going to get spiritually cut off; they get annihilated, right? There's, they'll get killed, right? They won't have a portion of the world to come. Yeah, but normally when we speak about kares, about being spiritually cut off, right? A few different definitions. What that means, it's talking about Jews, right? It's talking about Jews. So logically speaking, I would say, okay, you want to tell me, or some people want to say, hey, it's really talking about non-Jews. Non-Jews aren't allowed to eat blood. Why does it say among his people? It doesn't say amongst the people, right? It doesn't say amongst all the people who eat blood. It says among his people. Now, you could say, well, if a non-Jew eats blood, maybe they're liable for a death penalty. Yeah? So you don't have to tell me they get spiritually cut off. Yeah? Maybe they just die anyway. Right? Maybe you can make such an inference. Right? And the non-Jew is going to eat it. He'll also get killed. Right? Or die or whatever it's going to be. But how can you tell me he gets spiritually cut off? The language is very specific here. It says amongst his people. So what does his people mean? Don't give me Webster's fifth definition. His people means his people. Who are God's people? The Jewish people. Yeah. So comes on the Or Chaim HaKadosh. And the Or Chaim HaKadosh over here says it's a medrash. So I don't understand the medrash. He says, I don't know what the medrash means here. Right? It seems to say, according to the medrash, his people means everybody. Right? But he just rejected that before. He said it can't mean the community. Talking about individuals. Okay. Right? So he says, I don't understand the medrash. Right? What's going on here? Remember, Jewish people are held accountable one to another. Kol Yisrael Ravim said was that all Jews are intertwined. So therefore, if a Jew does something wrong, right, whether religious or not, the rest of the Jewish people suffer. And there's some things we've been suffering throughout the millennium. Sitting in the Golden Calf, some by the conference came out of Egypt or wherever they came from. Yeah, but the entire Jewish people suffer every year. Moses tries to intercede. God says, if I dwell amongst the Jewish people, I'm going to kill everybody. I'll start with you, Moses, again. Moses says, no, let's make a compromise. So it makes a compromise. What does God agree to? God agrees not to annihilate the entire Jewish people. So God says, I'll take it out on every generation. Then people could say, oh, that's not fair. We weren't there. We weren't part of it. It was only part of the mixed multitude, this and that. Okay. Remember this collective punishment. Sin of the spies, right? Give another example, right? Sin of the spies. They complain. They say there are giants there, and we're considered grasshoppers in their eyes, except for Yeshua ben Nun, Kaleb ben Yefuna. They're the only ones that don't complain. Very good. So the Gemara says, oh, you're complaining for nothing? What? You came out of Egypt, you saw the miracles, right? You have, lack of faith in me. Whatever levels or what happens. So God says over here, fine. As the Gemara says, you're crying for nothing. I can take care of business. I can do anything. I took you out of Egypt. I changed nature. You don't think I can take care of these giants? So at some level, the lack of Amunah, okay. But even if you're going to tell me that, what do I have? Then the Gemara says, you're crying for nothing. I'll give you something to cry for in all generations. And what's that a reference to? Destruction of the temple. Right? Destruction of both temples. Tisha B'Av, right? The fast of the 9th of all. A lot of tragedies happen on that day. So you want to complain for nothing? I'll give you what to complain about, right? Now, a lot of tragedies happen on that day. So even if you just want to tell me it was the first, second temple got destroyed, then okay. But think about it. Someone's going to say, I wasn't there. I didn't do it. Because I didn't do it, why am I liable? Why do I have to pay the price? And what's the simple answer? Right? What's the simple answer? The simple answer is collect the punishment. Kol Yisrael, Ravim Zeh. Right? That's what it means. Right? Now comes along Or Chaim HaKadosh and says, I don't understand. He says, if they're liable, everybody's liable, the entire community is liable, let's say, then why will some be exempt? Right? And if someone is not liable per se, let's say they didn't know. They did it by accident. They were under onus. It was against their will. That I wouldn't need to teach. Right? So either you tell me if they're obligated, yeah, why? Are we going to say everyone's obligated? Or only some of them? And if they're not obligated, maybe they didn't do anything wrong. Right? Maybe it's an onus, maybe something else. So he wants to say over here like this. He wants to say, just like a tree, right? Sometimes, you have to prune a tree. You have to get rid of some branches or whatever, right? In order to benefit the tree. Yeah. So you got to knock off some branches. Say, oh, terrible thing. You're knocking off these branches, but it's really strengthening the tree. Right? So sometimes you got to, even let's say, God forbid a person has an operation. Yeah. So surgeon doing the operation goes, no, don't do it. It's going to be painful. It's going to hurt. Right? Probably. Maybe you won't feel it. You wake up afterwards. Right? You'll be in a lot of pain. Right? Very good. What's the problem here? He's saving your life. He's taking off a part that's infected or whatever. Right? He's saving you. Right? Saving you. Totally saving you. So just like the tree, you're going to cut off part of the tree in order to strengthen the tree. That's what it means over here. Amongst your people, amongst his people. What does that mean? In order that branch, so to speak, doesn't cause damage. Right? It's not going to cause damage over here. It's because the person needs blood. Who are you damaging? Who are we damaging over here? We do any transgression. Right? Who are we causing damage to? Simple answer, ourselves. Ourselves, because we're going to see in the next verse, I don't know if we're going to get there today, we're going to see in the next verse about eating blood, how it's attached to the soul. Right? The lowest part of the soul. Right? The nefesh, the lowest part of the soul is where the blood is. So when a person eats the blood of an animal, it's going to have a negative effect. See, this is why also it has to apply to a Jew, not to a non-Jew, because a non-Jew can eat all kinds of garbage, creepy crawly things, who knows what. Doesn't affect them. Right? Kliyakar says by kosher animals. Right? It said in chapter 10. Right? Chapter 10, chapter 11. Right? Whatever it is. Right? We spoke about that. Chapter 11, I guess that's where it is. So the Kliyakar over there says it's forbidden for a non-Jew. Since it's forbidden, why would these animals be forbidden to a non-Jew? A non-Jew is only going to keep things that make sense, that affect him, right, in a negative way. If this has no benefit, it doesn't affect them in a negative way, why should it be forbidden? Why should it be forbidden? It doesn't affect them. Right? That's what the Kliyakar over there says. All right? Maybe except for the bats and Wuhan, okay? So maybe we got a question. But normally, Says the Kli Yakar over there, no matter what you eat, doesn't affect you. Doesn't have the same effect, right? It for sure doesn't have the same effect. How do I know it doesn't have the same effect? Because you see that they eat all kinds of things, doesn't affect them. Doesn't affect them in a negative way. Now, science is going to say that even if you eat, even if you eat the soul of an animal, let's say, you're eating the blood or whatever, or these non-kosher animals, science is going to say doesn't affect you. It's not going to have a negative effect. So we're always fond of saying we don't really care what science says, right? Science kind of irrelevant, right? A lot of things science is not proven, and just because there's an explanation that we are what we eat, so therefore Jews can't eat these animals for whatever reason, because science hasn't proven it's not true, right? Science in general has barely scratched the surface of what it knows. Science may know a lot. There's plenty of things science doesn't know. And one thing we'll just mention, that, you had COVID a few years ago. So some people will say, anyone who died, they had COVID in their system, will say, oh, they died from COVID. So the numbers are skewed. Let's say, right? I don't think it's necessarily so far-fetched, but let's say the numbers are skewed. So certainly not as many people died, but okay, a lot of people died from it, let's say. Okay, but what did it show? What did it show more than anything else? It showed that the medical establishment looked really dumb. That's what it showed. Social distancing, that didn't work. Wearing masks didn't work, didn't prove anything. Right? So you got a lot of things that made science look pretty dumb. Now, people, if they don't want to believe in anything spiritual, they're going to believe in science. They're going to believe, like Aristotle, I can only understand what I can see. I can only understand what I fathom. When I don't fathom what, then it's like the boogeyman. It doesn't mean anything, right? It's totally irrelevant. But what is science proving? Or let's say better, what if science has not proven it? Does that mean it's not true? No, people who are big into science will say, yeah, it's not true. It hasn't been proven. Well, a lot of things haven't been proven. Yeah. Science will still swear by it, even if it's not fully proven. They have a theory, and the theory has, certain principles and, whatever, but it doesn't matter. The point is, says the Kli Yakar, a non-Jew is not going to do things that do not benefit them. Right? So this has no effect. It's like a placebo. It's like eating something that's got no effect on you. Why would they do it? They say, I want to be more spiritual. It doesn't have an effect. Doesn't have an effect. Oh, comes to a great rabbi and says, I want to wear a tallis. I want to wear a prayer shawl. So it's okay. I want to feel more spiritual, whatever. He says, fine. Here. Take the prayer shawl. Good luck. So she comes back a few weeks later, says, you don't understand. You don't understand what I felt spiritually every time I put on the tallis. And he's like, well, or this prayer shawl, whatever you want to call it. So he's like, I don't know what you felt, but you didn't feel the mitzvah. You for sure didn't feel the mitzvah. She's going to say, what do you mean? I put it on, whatever. So how can you say I didn't feel the mitzvah? He says, I can't say what you felt, but I can tell you that this towel is not really a towel. He's like, what do you mean? See all these strings here? Some are missing. Some I cut off to make this, piece of cloth invalid for the mitzvah. It's invalid. It's not a tallis. Why? There's strings missing where it makes it invalid. So she says, but what did I feel? I felt so much more spiritual. Right? So you have to remember, usually we say, schar mitzvah b'ayal maleka. We don't get merit for any mitzvah that we do in this world. Right? We don't get any merit. We don't get the reward. Could be maybe we get partial reward if we do it with great joy, right? Whatever. But in general, we don't get the merit, the reward for the mitzvah in the next one. That's where we get it. We get it in the next one. Now that being the case, what she felt, can't answer. it's not the mitzvah itself. Can't be the mitzvah she's feeling. Maybe she's feeling something else. I have no idea. But it's not the mitzvah. How do I know it's not the mitzvah? Because she didn't do the mitzvah. The strings are not there to make it a kosher tallis. Right? So we can ask the question, okay, a non-Jew is going to do certain things, but they don't, let's say it doesn't apply. Says the Kli Yakar over there, this doesn't apply. Kashrus 100% doesn't apply. No, but I only want to eat clean animals. I only want to go according to what the Torah says. Again, says the Kli Yakar does not affect you. It has no effect. It's like a placebo. If it has no effect, why would you do it? Right? It's not my premise. Right? It's what the Kli Yakar says. It makes sense. If an non-Jew only has to keep things at universal according to the Torah, something that has no effect on them, he said they're not going to do it. If you want to tell me they have the same makeup, soul makeup as a Jew, very good. Then it'll have the same effect. But if they don't, and that doesn't apply to them, why would they do it? Why would they do it? What's the simple answer? Because I want to be like a Jew. Yeah. They're going to say, but I'm eating better. Right? I mean, I'm keeping kosher. But what is that? So for a non-Jew in the process of conversion, good. That they have an obligation to do at some point. And to keep Shabbos and blessings and all that. Right? You want to be a Jew, that's what you got to do. But at the end of the day, the person can say, yeah, but I feel a lot more spiritual doing it. Okay. Yeah, but that's not the spirituality of the mitzvah itself. Right? That doesn't have the same effect. As a Jew, it would have a different effect. Good. Living non-Jews happen into a certain extent when it's permissible. Can it have a positive effect on them? Sure. Is it gonna be the reward of doing the mitzvah? No. Because they're not obligated. Right? Certainly not obligated. Now, based on that, the Kli Yakar says, whatever a non-Jew is going to do, if it doesn't have an effect, why would they do it? It was a simple answer. They want to draw closer to God. Forget about, whether they want to be like a Jew, not like a Jew, whatever, they want to draw closer. That's how you draw closer. Wear a prayer shawl. Yeah, I put on tefillin, phylacteries, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I keep their holidays. So be a Jew. No, I don't want to be a Jew. Okay, so doesn't have the same effect. Can't straddle both lines. That the Rambam, the Laws of Kings says it's called Kiddushei Das. It's called making up a new religion. Making up a new religion, right, very simply means you go against what Moses says. Can't go against what Moses says. Right? Internal logic. Right? God revealed to the Jewish people, and he said that Moses is the greatest of all prophets. Whatever he says goes. He said that in front of 3 million people. In the Torah itself, by process of deduction, what does the Torah say? The Torah says, Moses says in the book of Deuteronomy, says you can't add or subtract to the Torah. Very good. If you can't add or subtract to the Torah, how do you have a new covenant? Jeremiah chapter 30. How do you have a new covenant? Internal logic tells me you can't. That doesn't make sense. It's not logical. Yeah. So it's good. It's a good question. Why does Jeremiah, who is a prophet, everybody agrees, he is a prophet, so why do you use that language? Very good. Good question. But what's the first part of the chapter talking about? First part of the chapter is reconnecting to the old covenant. Yeah, wanting people to repent. Shouting at them to repent. Very good. Question over here is that you can't go against prophecy of Moses. So the new covenant cannot be a new covenant. Even, according to them. So they have a convoluted way of looking at it. Okay, but I'm saying internal logic, forget what the rabbis say. Internal logic tells me that can't be true. Because God said, Moses is my trusted servant. You believe whatever he says. And he said it in front of 3 million people. So adding or subtracting goes out the window. You can't do that. Right? They're going to say, we're not chosen anymore. Whatever. New covenant. Where do you have a new covenant? How in the world do you have a new covenant? You don't. Right? That's impossible. right? So again, it's how we learn over here. So here, the Or Chaim says, Or Chaim HaKadosh tells us that cutting something off, right? Cutting something off, let's say again, you're cutting off a branch that's bad that's on a tree, right? You're pruning the tree, essentially. So when you cut off a branch, you gotta say, well, that branch is now gonna die because you cut it off. But at the same time, it's a bad branch. So by cutting it off, what does it do? It strengthens the tree, right? It strengthens the tree. So too over here, right? So too over here, you don't want what a person does. You don't want what a person does that part is going to be whole, right? That's what he said. I didn't understand. What does it mean that the nation's going to be whole? Well, if they're whole and the bad parts don't get knocked off, then what does that do for God here? Does it make God look bad? Does it make, God look quote unquote weaker? That's what, that's what sorcery is, right? It weakens, godliness in the world. You're going to say, how does that work? How can God be weakened? So to speak, you're giving power to something, right? I mean, sorcery does have power if you know what you're doing, right? You don't have to be on a high level to use it, but the Torah says don't do it many times, right? Torah says don't do it, but the Torah says don't do it, right? You're playing with fire over here because sorcery, in other words, using, black magic or anything else, what does that do? It gives power. Now, when that gives power, it gives the person power, in different things. If it gives a person power, what does that do for God here? You would say, well, this is real power. Oh, God, yeah, believe in him, don't believe in him, whatever, right? This is the real power. This is the real thing. Okay, person's tapping in from the dark side. Okay. But essentially what that does is that weakens God's power in the world, so to speak. Now, God's power is the same. It doesn't change, right? Why weaken it? Because when a person sees something like that, their belief in God is much less, right? You see by some of the plagues that were done in Egypt, the Egyptian sorcerers were also able to do. Now, what was the purpose of that? Why allow Egyptian sorcerers to be able to do it? Also, to be able to harden their hearts and say, come on, Moses, you're doing, the stick trick. You're taking the stick, you throw it down, it becomes a stick. We can do that, right? We can do that. Oh, you want to do this? We can do that. But then they had to admit, by certain plagues, they couldn't do it, right? Plague of vermin. They said it's leukemia. This is the hand of God. They couldn't duplicate it. Once they can't duplicate it, yeah, God's power is shown. But if they could duplicate it, come on, God's that powerful? Your God's so powerful, I can do the same thing. I'm like God. Now, why would God allow that? Why would God allow that? Very simple. He wants to give people free choice. Right? He's just setting them up to destroy them. Right? I don't think there's any question about that. Right? Because why? What's he doing? He's going to have them be able to do the same thing. Are they going to believe in God after this, even with the other plagues? No. You're not going to say God has power. We have power. We can do this. Oh, by certain plagues, they couldn't do. Once they're not able to do it, they admit, this is even a merit for them, they admit that this is, that we can't do this. That this is the hand of God. Or this is literally the finger of God. Pretty amazing. Even if they admit it. Yeah, so what's going on here? The fact that they can do the same thing, or some of the same things, come on. There's a God, he runs the world, this, that, I can do this. Doesn't God making it more difficult for them? Sure. Is he making it impossible for them? No. By that point, where they understand they can't do this, this is a higher power. that's doing this. It is pretty amazing. You would think after Egypt is getting decimated, and then they realize this is out of their hands, they can't fight it. Why don't they kill Pharaoh? Why don't they knock him off? So Medrash says, he consolidated a lot of power. Some people tried, it didn't work. So strong as power was, they weren't able to. Right? But at the end of the day, some people thought, okay, there's a reprieve, everything's good, go back to normal, still enslave them. But it does boggle the mind. Got to ask the question. They're getting hammered for a long time. All these different plagues. Totally destructive. Destroy the whole country. I would think after the first couple, maybe at least after the first 3 or 4, they're like, king, you got to get rid of these people. They cause us havoc. We got people dying. God set them up. He set them up to show his power. That was the whole question. The Torah says that they should see my power. But who, these miracles, who are they for? And the whole question commentaries ask, who are these miracles for? Are they for the sake of the Egyptians? To show that, or to the whole world, especially to the Egyptians, to show, God is above everything. No one can fight against him. Right? Is it that? Or is it for the sake of the Jewish people? God is showing miracles, so they're going to want to serve him. Or is it for both? It's both for the Jews and non-Jews. Yeah? So always seems for both. God wants to certainly show the Egyptians and the world his power, but also for the sake of the Jews, what he can do. Right? And then the only ones that took the lesson. Right? Again, you had mixed multitude who wanted to join, but everyone else did, they weren't interested. Totally weren't interested. God goes to all the nations, Gemara says, and Avodah Zarah 2b to 3a. Right? The Medrash says the same thing. They all rejected. They're not interested in Torah at all. Okay. Jewish people came along and said, Nasa v'nishma, we'll do, then we'll hear. We'll do whatever it takes. Right? We'll do whatever it takes. We don't care what's written in it. What's interesting, so you say, why didn't so many other people convert? It says, Parshas Yisro at the very beginning, Moshe's father-in-law, says Yisro heard. Well, didn't the whole world hear? Everybody heard what happened in Egypt. What did he hear? Right? He heard the splitting of the sea, and he heard the war about Amalek. What are the plagues? Everything else? Right? Good question. But Yisro heard, and he took it to heart. He took it to heart. Now, very simply, we could say, Ein doim mishmei l'riyah. There's no comparison hearing something to seeing something. If you hear about it, I would say better. If you see it, it makes a greater impression, much greater impression. Right? If I see it, if I witness it, if a person, let's say, doesn't witness it, let's say, right? If they don't witness it, right? Once I'm able to see it, that's one thing. But at the end of the day, if you didn't see it, you only heard about it, doesn't have the same effect. Hearing about it doesn't have the same effect. Now you can say this is the greatest generation in the history of man. Saw God face to face at Mount Sinai. Right? They complain. We missed the fish. Right? We want meat. You got sin and spies, you got Korah. What happened here? These are the people that came out of Egypt. 40% that came out of Egypt. Where's their faith here? Where's their emunah? So somehow there's some level of lack of emunah. It's hard to understand. right? But essentially, they saw what happened. They saw Egypt get decimated. They saw the manna fall. They saw the sea split and all the plagues, right? And still Korach's jealous emotion are. It's like, I want to be the high priest. He wasn't a fool. He carried the ark and he didn't die. It's on a very high level. What happened? Something wrong. There is seriously something wrong. So the Mishnah Pirkei Avos says, probably get there when I'm like 102. The Mishnah Pirkei Avos says that jealousy, honor, desire can kill a person, take them out of this world. So some of the commentaries, they are saying exactly, literally, could kill you. What could happen to Korach? Killed him. How do you make such a mistake? Says Ramosha finds in blessed memory Torah giants the last generation. In America, it would have been Torah giants anywhere, pretty much. And in Drash Moshe, what does he say? His commentary in Chumash, what does he say? He says, well, how do you make a mistake? How in the world do you make a mistake? After seeing all the miracles, saw all the miracles, didn't internalize the message. That was a mistake. He did not internalize the message. So when a person, even if they see something, but for whatever reason, they don't take the message the way they should, it doesn't resonate with them as much as it should, whatever, however you want to call it, what happens? It goes by, goes away. You don't really think about it so much. You lost it, right? Essentially, you lost it because you don't internalize what it says. Right? The whole of bubbles, through to the heart, and the gate of self-accounting. Right? The 5th chapter says, you want to get anywhere in this world, you have to take a self-accounting every day. Like every second of every day, you should be taking self-accounting. What you did, how you interacted with others, all these things. You should take a self-accounting. Because if you don't take a self-accounting, what's going to get you to change? What's going to get you to see reality? Nothing. Because you don't think about it. You just live. There's a lot of people in this world. Even by Orthodox Jews, doing things by rote. Doing things mechanically. Yeah, there are a lot of reasons why that could be. But the point is, says the Chofetz Levavos, you got to get the message. And the message is you got to change. The message is you got to keep the Torah the best of your ability. That's the message. And you got to take stock of what you see around you. You got to take in nature. You got to take a look at the human body. You got to look at things that are beyond us. Yeah. That shows God's awesomeness in the world, right? That's what we call Yisromamus, the highest level of fear. God's awesomeness in the world, through nature, through the human body. That it can't be random, right? That this world cannot be random. But we have to do that on a regular basis because it's very hard. We get sucked into this world, right? As we mentioned many times. Right? The Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, you're in this world to toil. It says in Path of the Just also, we're in this world to toil. We're in this world to struggle. But you got to be in this world. So even if we're in this world, guess what? I still have to work very hard. And we're living now in a world of Hester B'toch Hester Panim. We're living in a world of God's hiddenness, tremendous hiddenness. So if we're living within a world of hiddenness within hiddenness, right, a lot of things are clouded by the hiddenness. We don't see things directly. Totally don't see things directly. Right? It's clouded in nature. But certain things I think are very easy to see. Two people can see the same thing, right, and come to totally different conclusions. Someone I spoke to became religious in their 30s. And I was asking them, how'd you become religious? What happened? And they said, that's not the question. Question is, me and my siblings saw the same thing. Why did I see it one way, they saw it differently? So two people can see the same thing, right? They can see the same thing. right? Even if they see the same thing, they come to two very different conclusions. One person can say, "Wow, this is a miracle. This is, this is a miracle. Can't explain it otherwise." Other people say, "Yeah, it could happen. It could easily happen. Even statistically, maybe not that way, but it could happen, and they'll make up some convoluted idea how it could be." So people could see things right in front of their eyes and deny it, totally deny it. Certain things, I would think they can't deny. They're impossible to deny, right? But they don't want to see it. So what do? They don't see it. They'll say that could happen, even if statistically it's impossible. But if they say statistically it's impossible, that means there's something else going on, and that they don't want to admit, because if they admit God's in charge, that means they have to change. They don't want to change, right? Like someone told me, the only intellectually honest person I met in the last 30 years said exactly that. If I look into it and I find out it's true, and this person was married to a non-Jew, right, and still is married to a non-Jew, but they said that if I look into it and I find out it's true, I have to change. I'm not willing to change. 100%, I'm not willing to change. So I'm not going to look into it. Okay, they're being honest. Other people come up with Webster's 8th definition, why this is like this and why that's like that and something else. And, so essentially they're looking into nothing. Most people today don't care. It doesn't matter. It matters if it's true, it's not true. For most people, they just want to enjoy life, go according to their desires, and that's it. So back to what the Or Chaim HaKadosh here says. The Or Chaim HaKadosh over here says that you have a tree, right? It's got bad branches. Because it's got bad branches, what do? You knock it out. You take it out. That benefits the tree. Right? And what's that going to do? What's that going to do over here? You're going to knock off people, spiritually cut them off, and then you have the rest are intact. Right? The rest are, complete. So again, you would say, what does that mean? That Jews are going to get knocked off, so to speak, because God doesn't want them in the world. Because He doesn't want them in the world, what's going to happen? Right? What's going to happen? It'll be better. It'll make God's presence stronger because of what these people are doing. See, this is something people can't understand either. Right? And that is, if a person did something wrong, as we spoke about before, why do we, the Jewish people, suffer? If a Jew does something wrong, again, there's collective punishment. Right? So God is going to knock out, so to speak, these bad apples, for lack of a better term. And that'll bring back the completeness back to Him. But you say, we got a lot of bad apples around, even if they don't know anything. Okay? So, some people say everyone's going to repent at some point, by the end of days, which we're getting closer. So a lot of people, going to repent. So whoever doesn't, they're in trouble. Right? They're in serious trouble. I'm not that optimistic. I don't see it. I think there's only going to be a remnant left. Whoever's going to keep Torah mitzvahs, they're going to be left, right? If they're doing what they're supposed to do, and everyone else in trouble. It's not, it's not like I've heard people say, "Wow, you'll have a bigger portion of the world to come than me," or "You'll get better than." No, who says you're going to get there? Who says you're not going to get obliterated? Right? Right? Who says you're not going to get obliterated? Right over here. The Mishnah Pirkei Avos says at the very beginning. The Mishnah Pirkei Avos says that every Jew has a portion of the world to come. Right? So someone said, if that's true, then I'll just get a smaller portion than you. But then I said, we're on the Gemara on that. So then the Gemara goes into detail about people who lost the portion of the world to come. Not like, I'll get a smaller portion. Who says you're going to get there? right? The Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, you got to hit a minimal level. There's a minimal level to hit in order to have a portion of the world to come. Now, he doesn't tell you what that is. But he says you have to hit some minimal level. Right? So I remember speaking to a bunch of 18, 19-year-old kids years ago. I was talking about how the Chofetz Chaim says when Mashiach comes, generation is going to be going much quicker. Right? Someone said, "Oh, what does that mean?" So I said, "Well, I'll give you an example. At that time, I was only a generation and a half, more or less, removed from these guys." I said, "I grew up without Microsoft Windows." Right? So anyone who's as old as me or older, knows that Microsoft Windows came at a certain point. Before that, it's kind of a joke. What computers were back in the day. But so they couldn't fathom. So then someone says, "Well, what if I keep kosher and I keep Shabbos? Am I safe?" So one of them. Then someone says, "Well, I hope by this rabbinic organization for conscience, like, oh, he's in trouble, right?" So what's the minimal level? Person keeps Shabbos, that's good. Person keeps kosher, that's good, right, for a Jew. Yeah. They keep other mitzvahs, good. Yeah, a person's got to be in the game. If they're not in the game, they don't have a chance. Unless they repent before. Right? It doesn't make sense. Why would God keep them alive and spare them if spiritually they're holding nowhere in the world? Now, you tell me, as some may say, it's going to be this massive, movement of repentance. You're going to get tens of thousands and millions of Jews coming back to Torah mitzvahs. Okay, I'd love to see it. Yeah, we got 13.5 million Jews that don't know the Aleph base. So, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to fathom such a thing. Okay. Right, but if you're not, but bottom line, right, so, heard some people say, totally wrong, right? They'll say, well, God loves everybody. He doesn't. King David himself says, I love those that love you. I fight against those that hate you. And his son, King Solomon, in Ecclesiastes, says it's time to love, it's time to hate. I can't hate a Jew in your heart. True. Could hate non-Jews if I want. Right, but you can't hate a Jew in your heart. So that means I can hate what they do, but I can't hate them as a person. Right? As a person, you can't hate them. Right? Essentially, as a person, you can't hate them. You can hate what they do. So if somebody spits in God's face on a daily basis, why at the end of days, if they're around, why would God save them? Logically. What are they going to have in the next world? What closeness are they going to have to God in the next world? If they didn't really keep very much here. It doesn't matter why they didn't keep it. Right? It's irrelevant why they didn't keep it. They didn't. Yeah. So if that's true, without repentance, how's that help? How does that help them from being saved? Seemingly, it doesn't. It doesn't get them into the game. That's not what happens. Right? That's not what happens. So if that's true, you need repentance. 100% you need repentance. Not going to be any free lunch here. Again, not so, popular to say, but it's the truth. Right? As we said before, getting spiritually cut off means you go poop. Right? But again, getting spiritually cut off has a number of definitions. It doesn't mean, because somebody asked, doesn't spiritually cut off and not having the portion of the world become the same? They're different. They're not the same. I mean, they are the same in some ways. But being spiritually cut off could mean you die young in this world. Dying young is before the age of 60. Right? That's dying young. So some people, make a chaim, when they hit 60, because then they know they're not spiritually cut off. Or it means, right, that either the person themselves die young or their children die young. Their children die in their lifetime. That's also what spiritually cut off means. Now, technically speaking, you'll say, well, spiritually cut off, not having a portion of the world to come. Yeah. Isn't it the same? Yeah. Definitely sounds the same. But again, there are different nuances, a few of them that I mentioned. That's what, being spiritually cut off means. Now, even if you want to tell me that, even if you want to tell me it's the same thing, why does it say among his people? Right? You still have to answer that up. Among his people doesn't mean non-Jews. Non-Jews will get knocked off because they didn't keep the Noahide laws properly. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that they're going to die young or their kids will die young in their lifetime. Who says that applies to them? Maybe it does, but who says it does? And if it doesn't, if it doesn't, which I don't think it does, if it doesn't, then that wouldn't be applicable. Right? Technically, you tell me it doesn't mean you're not getting divorced in the world to come, but it's not the same thing. It's totally not the same thing. Right? Because, there's a specific punishment for non-Jews don't keep the Noahide laws. There's specific punishment. Right? Sometimes death penalty, not for everything. And sometimes maybe it's just it's a total prohibition without death penalty. Yeah. There could be other punishments, but it doesn't necessarily mean a person's going to get the death penalty. Okay. So a non-Jew is looked at very differently. Very, very differently. A non-Jew, in essence, they have to keep what's universal. Now, if they're liable for death penalty, let's say idolatry, death penalty. So a Jew, technically speaking, if they see them do that, they don't have to warn them. A Jew has to be warned if they do something wrong, right? Before you're going to get them. A non-Jew, you don't have to, because the death is their warning. Why? Because it's something obvious. When they get upstairs after 120 years, God's going to say, how come we didn't do this, do that? Because I never heard about the Noahide laws. God says the Noahide laws are universal. How'd you not hear about them? God said, well, I'll give you an example. You killed your father. So I didn't kill him. That wasn't murder. It was mercy. Right? He was in Asia. God says, you think there's a difference between what you did and shooting him in the head? Same thing. It's universal. Or don't you know, the Torah says you're not allowed to steal. So I see over here that there's money you didn't declare. Isn't that stealing from Uncle Sam? Is that stealing from the government? No, Uncle Sam takes too much anyway. That's not stealing, right? That's for sure not stealing. They're not going to have an excuse. God's not going to hit them with something and say, you're going to get a severe punishment over here because it's something you could never have known. So a person would say, that's not fair. Very good. Right? In God's world, that wouldn't be fair, right? So God can't do that. He's going to say these things are universal. Oh, you created a whole agenda. You got sucked into society. And what society says, blah, blah, blah. I didn't tell you to get sucked into it. So now you got all these fancy terms to admit that it's okay to do what you did. And you come up with all these ideas, right? We'll call it an agenda, right? That's an agenda. Okay. That's an agenda. I didn't tell you to get convinced of it. You convinced yourself of it. Oh, but I was brainwashed. Yeah. There are like tens of thousands of millions of people worship cows. And that being brainwashed also? Or a person grew up in good old Mother Russia, right? They've been waving the Mao's flag. And that being brainwashed? All of them are atheists. Right? That's what communism is, atheism. And that being brainwashed? Yeah. But don't some people come out of it? Some people come out of it. Not impossible. Can't make excuses. God can say very easily, I put out this whole world. How come you didn't look into the world to see my greatness, to serve me, to see that there's a world of design like Abraham did, either at the age of 3 or the age of 40? right? Difference of opinion. How come he didn't see that? How come he didn't look at the human body, the miracle of the human body? The miracle of the fact that the earth stays on its axis, doesn't go too close to the sun, we'd be incinerated. Too far out, we'd be like Pluto, that frozen tundra, even though it got knocked down as a planet. How come he didn't look into the world? You get an obligation to look in the world. Oh, but I had questions. Oh, really? Let's hear. Yeah, let's see if you got good questions. That made you go off or whatever. Right? If it's an answer, I can't answer an answer. It's an agenda. You got an agenda. Very good. How'd you get sucked up in it? How'd you get caught up in it? We'll say nicer. How'd you get caught up in that? Because that's what society taught you. Society brainwashed you. Yeah. But it's not my fault. Whose fault is it? The Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, you're in this world to toil. And God created evil. Why did God create evil? Says Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7, God created evil. Major problem for the Christians, because where does evil come from? Fallen angel. Mr. S, the Satan, Satan, evil inclination, angel of death, whatever you want to call him. That's where it comes from. So if you have a fallen angel, I blame everything on him. But people say, if God created evil, it means he is evil. No, doesn't mean he's evil. He allows people to tap in. Because he gave us free choice. And if people tap in, are they liable? Yes. And what if they cause damage to someone else? They're still liable. But God's using them to get to you. Very good. Very good. So like a person, it's a dog with a stick. You go after the stick. Now, if a person really has free will, why is God using that person? He's twisting their mind. God's not twisting their mind. He's just using them. They're going to do it. God's going to punish them. They're guilty. 100% they're guilty. Right? Same thing about happened to the Egyptians. Right? God tells Abraham, your progeny, your offspring are going to be slaves to a nation. They're going to get punished. And they're going to be enslaved by a nation of their own. Torah doesn't say who that is. We understand it's the Egyptians. Very good. So if God already pre-warned it and knows what's going to be, why are they punished? Right? You tell me that's predestination. They're destined to do that, so it's not their fault. So they went beyond what they should have done, even though God knew it was going to be them. Anyone could have done it. Greeks could have done it. The Romans could have done it. Babylon could have done it. All these nations. All these nations could have enslaved the Jews, let's say. Who came along the scene and did it? The Egyptians. The Egyptians did it. Now, they took up the mantle, but they went beyond what they went well beyond. God punished them. Now, did they have a choice? They had a choice. There's a big mistake people make also. Oh, they didn't have a choice. They had free will. Who's got free will? Right now, any Jew watching me can be eating a ham sandwich. They got a free choice. They can be eating shrimp, clams, oysters, whatever. They can be eating all this stuff. Anything stopping them? Nothing stopping them. Maybe guilt. Maybe. For most people, nothing's stopping them. Okay. Are they liable for their actions? Yes. Is anyone putting a gun to their head and say, you better eat shrimp or you're going to die? No. Everyone's got free choice. But see, we're very quick to react. Someone causes us damage and we're jumping up and down. Right? They're guilty, nothing to talk about. God's we say, a lot of messengers God has. A lot of messengers. God's got a lot of messengers. Why am I getting angry? God's just using this person to get to me. Now, does that mean if they cause me damage, I can't sue them? Or I can't collect from them or whatever? Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean I don't say, well, God's the one in charge. So if they cause me damage, well, I'll get it back or whatever the case is. So, God will take care of it. Right? We live in this world. Someone causes damage, they're liable. Right? They should be liable. They should have to answer for what they've done. Very good. Can't say I didn't do anything. Can't say I'm not guilty. They're guilty. Someone's texting, goes through a red light, hits your car. They're guilty. Now they cause you damage, maybe physical pain. Now you got to get your car fixed and insurance and this, a big pain in the neck, right? I'll imagine probably trauma a little bit, right? Everything combined. Very good. Now what happened over here? we're going to go out. We're going to start screaming at the person because they ran the light. They're guilty. You're going to start yelling, screaming, this and that, which everyone should agree that that person has a right to do that. Okay. Right. But they're forgetting one thing. Who's the one? They're the one that caused the damage. God's using them to get to you. Right. So that there's a story of somebody's learning Nation Torah at Shiva here in Jerusalem, or of Noah Weinberg, blessed memory, right? Shiva for returnees to Judaism, Bali Chuvas, we call them. And he's talking about God, and this guy, interrupts and says, Rabbi, God and I are very tight. God and I are very tight. Says, okay, tell me your story. So he says, riding my motorbike one day, driving down the road, oil slick. I go off a cliff. I'm like, God, save me. And I reach out, there's a tree. There's a branch. Yeah, motorbike gets destroyed. I pick myself up, brush myself off, no problem. Right? No broken bones. No nothing. So you don't have to tell me about God. God and I are very tight. Very good. So Noah tells him, great story. He says, unbelievable story. Right? He says, I got one question. He said, my one question is who threw you off the cliff? Good question. Yeah. God's knocking on your door. Or a person got an illness or something happened, whatever it is. God can do anything over here. Right? He made that oil be there. That oil slick. He made him go flying off the cliff, so to speak. But he also saved him. He gone flying off the cliff and that's it. He say the morning's prayer after that. Right? Finished. Goes flying 300 feet, goes down. Right? He should be dead. Essentially, he should be dead. Now, you can ask me the $1 million question, and that is, why did God save him? Good question. What merit did he have to be saved? I can't answer. But very well could be. God kept him alive because he knew. Because he knew that if he saves him, he's going to be a spokesman. He's going to turn around his life. He's going to see where it all came from. He's going to be able to strengthen other people. Yeah, but look what happened over here. Look in the world what happened. Motorbike destroyed, got thrown off a cliff. That's pretty bad. Right? It's a good way to get someone's attention. Right? Or, let's say, a person goes for, regular tests, yearly checkup. A lot of blood work and everything else. And a day later, frantic phone call from doctor tells you better get in here immediately. Immediately. Yeah. What's this person think? Cancer. Worst type of cancer, I'm going to die in 2 months. Yeah. But they're thinking the worst of the worst. Now, at this point, you think about it, all they're going to do is pray. That's all they can do. Because the results are what they are. Right? So, no atheist in a foxhole over here. The person hears that news, they know it's bad. Dr. Love's not calling you for no reason. It's bad. It could be really bad, whatever it is. Person comes in. Now imagine. Imagine what's going to happen now. They're just waiting for the news. They're like, okay, just tell it to me straight. How much time do I have? Right? Or what do I have even better? So, doctor says we're going to run all these tests. Your blood work came in, you're about to have a heart attack or a stroke or who knows what, and, we got to see what's going on inside. Yeah, because this looks really bad. Yeah. But what happens? So they're thinking the absolute worst. The absolute worst. They go through these tests. A few weeks later, a whole barrage of tests. CAT scan, PET scan, this, that. Finally, they come back. And the doctor says, okay, I want to see you, in 2 days or whatever. Tomorrow, come in. We're going to discuss the results. They go back in. And the doctor says, yeah, we saw something. We thought it was something major. And really, everything turned out negative. You're free to go. Everything's good. Now, what would a person say in such a situation? Or there are cases where someone had to have surgery, and there was a tumor, and it was cancer, and it was this, and it was that, everything bad, and then disappear. Then, like overnight, it disappeared. Now, a person can look at it one of two ways. A person can say, "Well, I got lucky. I got a second, leash on life, so to speak." Here, you're thinking you're going to be in the ground in 2 months, or 2 weeks, or you're thinking the absolute worst, which could have been. Our minds go crazy. We hear things like this. Yeah, and really, if they're right, if the doctors are right, let's say, okay, you try this, try that. Person gets, I know somebody tragic that all kinds of stomach pain and this and that, and I'd be rushed to the hospital a number of years ago. It was actually on Passover, and they had no choice. They had to open them up, see, what was there, and they found they had like, I don't know, third, fourth stage of stomach cancer, which is never good, right? Never good. They tried this, tried that, whatever. 10 months. I don't know. It's less than a year and a half. Less than a year and a half passed away. It's early 50s. Right? It's very young. His youngest kid was 2. Oldest was 12. 6 kids. Right? So anything can happen at any time. Nobody knows, right? As King Solomon says, you don't know what today's going to bring, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You have no idea. But if someone's given a second leash on life, they didn't have to go through surgery. What they said or what they thought it wasn't, right? It was a big mistake, right? Ha ha, right? Big mistake at your expense. I mean, they're human, they can make mistakes, So why would God do that, right? Why would I think God would do that? Wake a person up. Could it have been really bad? Yes. Could have been something that could have killed them in, I don't know, 6 months, a year, something like that? Yes. Right? So why would God take it away? Why would God even make the person not even go through any treatment? Even better. That the whole thing was a big mistake. Because he sees that if he shows how fragile life is, we all know this. Everybody knows how fragile life is. All I have to do is get in a car, drive somewhere. You know how fragile life can be. You know it, we understand that. We don't think that way. We don't live that way. But we understand that. So imagine now a person basically has a new leash on life. His life was given back to them, back as it was. Is that person going to be so thankful? How are they going to change their lives? Even better. You take stories of people who had out-of-body experiences, and they all say the same thing. They saw their soul hover above the body, right? Men, women, children, Jew, non-Jew, same thing. See their life flash before their eyes, right? As we always say, just when you thought it was safe to read National Geographic in the bathroom, right? Everything being recorded, just like we're recording now. Everything being recorded. Now, you can't say you didn't do it. Can't say you didn't have the hand in a cookie jar. It was there. You can make excuses. Why, this, that, but you have a clarity that you never had before. God's showing you, what the next world's all about. But these people come back and tell the story. They come back and tell the story. They came back to the body. Now, again, they all say the same thing. Exactly what the Zohar says, according to Kabbalah. But they all say the same thing. The ones who are alive. That come, if they don't come back, they die. Right? Essentially, they die. So why did God give them a second leash on life? It's interesting. Some people say they saw JC. They saw this one. This one brought them back, and this one brought them back. Okay. Whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. But obviously, God put you back in your body for a reason. He wanted you to see certain things. He wanted you to awaken you. And hoping that coming back to your body, or knowing coming back to your body, you're going to be a major spokesman for him. Now, there's a story called The View from Above. That's the name of the book. It's about a secular Israeli woman got clocked on the head by a beam, I think 5, 6 stories. It's on some sort of, I think she was on a construction site or something. Got clocked on the head by a beam. Out-of-body experience, the whole 9 yards, exactly what we said before. And she comes back to her body. Now, I'll ask you, really didn't have to all question because I just upped the ante, and that is, How long do you think after the, and again, secular Israeli, let's go through rehabilitation, other things, how long do you think it would take for her to recognize that God exists and he's in charge and she's going to be an ultra-Orthodox Jew? We would think, or I would think, someone, has an open miracle done for them. Or as they saw what went on or heard things in the next world and saw their, they understand they have a soul, right? That's already a huge thing. They understand they have a soul. Very good. Now they understand there's greater repercussions for what I do and blah, blah, blah. How long did it take for this woman to come to this clarity, this understanding to be an Orthodox Jew? It took about 7 years. I think it took, if I remember correctly, it took about 7 years. 7 years is a long time, right? So what happened within those 7 years? So she says, she got back to herself, go back to work, other things, and like this bothered her. Like, why was she showing this? Why, she started looking into things. And her friends were like, come on, it'll pass. Don't worry about it. You'll be like your old self. Maybe it's just the after effect of what happened. And, the soul gets cooled down in this world. So even if seeing and hearing and whatever, in that spiritual world, the soul comes back to the body, doesn't mean instantaneously, the person's going to be, become religious. There's a story of a teenager. Same thing happened. Right? So someone asked him, this rabbi helped, facilitate this whole thing, asked him, how come he's not in yeshiva? Why is he not learning? Why is he not learning Torah after he tells about the experience he had and what he saw and what he heard? Someone asked him, how do you still dress the same way? How do you still look the same way? How can you not see it's an open miracle and you saw things in the next world and all that and you understand it's true? What was the answer? What was the simple answer? Just because he witnessed it doesn't mean it's going to change overnight. Right? We get back to normal. Even if a person had something happen to them that was above nature, can't explain it according to nature, right, so to speak, can't explain it, but to make that leap and now, start being, a religious Jew, okay, that's going to take time. That's not an overnight thing. We might think maybe it should be. A person witnessed that. They heard it. They understand, what it is, so to speak. How could they not all of a sudden now, start learning how to pray, start learning, to learn and, other things? Takes time. Even if they witness it themselves, takes time. It's not an overnight thing. For this other woman, it took 7 years. Right? It took 7 years to come to this conclusion. Yeah. Eventually to change. But we get cooled off in this world. That's the point. We're attached to the body. The soul is attached to the body. The body has control of the soul. Right? There's always a battle. As we say, till a person dies. The body wants to go after things physical. Very good. The soul wants to go everything spiritual. So there's a conflict. When the body goes after the body, when it's forbidden, what happens? It debases the body, debases the soul. When the soul does what it's supposed to do, Torah, mitzvah, this and that, strengthens the body, strengthens the soul. Right? But there's a conflict. There's always a conflict. So, imagine. Person came out of this, whatever it may be. And people say, come on, all of a sudden you're holier than thou. All of a sudden now you're going to be like super Jew and this and that, or a super non-Jew or whatever. They'll try and convince you, come on, we'll go to a game. Why don't you come with us to the game? Why don't you come do this? Again, once they're better. They get cooled down. The soul gets cooled down, so to speak. So it's a huge test. Give up everything they had before, it's hard. Right? Even though they saw, their soul felt it, heard the screams of other souls, saw things that, like this kid would say, I'm not going to say what I saw. I'm not going to say what my soul saw. Too scary. Okay. But don't you think that's enough? Start doing things? Takes time, right? Certainly takes time. Yeah, let me see. I'm sure there are questions here. Right, let's see. So you can't hate George Soros or others that hate for you what you stand for. You can hate what they do. Evil people who are truly evil, we don't even mention them by name. I was just learning something earlier that the Gemara calls a certain person a certain min. A min could be an abikoros, a heretic. It could also be an acronym for me, Yeshua Noitzri, right? Talking about JC. But whoever it's talking about, it mentions them by name. Mentions his first name, right? This, let's say, Yosef the heretic or whatever said this, right? So you can ask, okay, why do I care what he said? What what he has to say, it should be irrelevant. One of the commentaries says, if he's a real heretic, you don't mention him by name. Why don't you mention him by name unless you're making fun of him? Why don't you mention him by name? Because he says that that evil people, their name should rot. So don't mention them by name, right? One of the commentaries says you don't mention an evil person by name per se, but you see people do. You see, we don't hold that way, right? So, if you're gonna, make fun of what he does, which you could, right, or be angry for what he does, again, by a Jew, it says a Jew cannot hate another Jew in their heart. Now, if they're evil against God, hate's a very strong word. I can hate what they do. I can hate what they do. Right? Remember, so I'll give an example. I was part of a panel discussion many years ago in, one Shabbaton, with a lot of non-religious people there, and the question that was thrown out to a panel of rabbis was an Orthodox Jew got caught doing something, and was in the press. How do you react? Right? So basically, we all agreed you condemn the act, not the person. Right? So I had the great misfortune of speaking like last or speaking third. Actually, I think I spoke last. And basically, what I had to say and what I was prepared to say was already taken by the first three people. But I still had by the third person, I still had what to say. I still had what to answer until a few minutes before we finished, he took my last thing. I was like, uh-oh. I was like, I got 3 minutes to come up with something. Right? So basically one of the things I said was that, in a newspaper headline or on the internet or wherever, if you say dog bites man, that's not a story, right? Nobody's going to care. If you say man bites dog, that's a story. So, yeah, there are scandals that happen in the Orthodox community. We're not free of scandals like anybody else, right? But, I would say it's more common now than it used to be, but okay. So in general, I would say that something that's not as common, which really isn't as common as the outside world, but something that is not as common, let's say, then that's a big story. Right? In other words, an Orthodox Jew got caught doing something. It's very rare. I'm not saying Orthodox Jews don't get caught. I'm saying they don't do things like this. Whatever, commit fraud or other thing, whatever it may be. Yeah, in general. So here, if someone gets caught, they get caught doing something. Sure, it's a big story. That doesn't normally happen. Now, if it does happen, okay, so you can't believe what they say in the papers or on the internet, right? Because again, it's all Lashon Hara. Now, even if I know it's true, even if let's say for sure it's true, it's been proven, let's say, I allowed to hate another Jew. And the Torah says I'm not allowed to hate another Jew. The Torah says you're not allowed to. I can hate what they do. I can fight against them, right? And there were great rabbis fought against secular Jews. They fought against Zionists and this and that, with a passion, with a very strong passion. But at the same time, if anyone ever got, if they got in trouble with the authorities or whatever, they would be there trying to help them. So there's a difference. You can hate their ideology. You can hate what they stand for and what they do. Yeah? Hating them themselves, different issue. Different issue. You hate what they stand for. You hate what they believe in. Right? Others hate what you stand for. Let me ask you. Let me ask you, do you think I give a rat's tail what other people think? I don't really give a rat's tail what other people think. You know what I care about? I care what he thinks. There are plenty of people who got nasty things to say about Orthodox Jews. Plenty. Plenty. You know, they like blood libels. They like blood libels. Yeah? So even if they hate what you stand for, they're entitled to their opinion. They're wrong. They're off their rocker, right? In many ways. Again, hating them? No, but, you know, there's a great rabbi still alive today, and his brother started a movement, an organization, trying to convince Orthodox Jews to go off. Yeah? And whatever, it was, you know, it's a serious organization, you know, trying to get Orthodox Jews to, you know, to go off. So when he died, so he asked the Torah giant of the generation, Rabbi Yosef, blessed memory, you know, this person was so bad, and what he did, does he have an obligation to sit Shiva? Does he have an obligation to mourn for him? He said no. Now again, there are going to be technical issues here. Technical issues. You can hate the ideology. You can hate what they stand for. It's still creating God's image. Still can't hate the person. Non-Jews we can hate as much as we want. Right? Jews can hate non-Jews as much as they want. Is that a good thing? In some ways, maybe. Depends what they do. Right? Hatred is very strong. Hatred can be all-encompassing. It can destroy a person. It totally destroy a person. You know, but you know, at the same time, can't we say, well, someone does this act or that act or something else? Aren't they really evil? Yes. Is God going to severely punish them? Yes. Can I hate what they did to me? Yes. You can hate what they did to them. Yeah. But the bigger scheme of things, no psychologists probably tell you this, but in the bigger scheme of things, that person had to go through whatever they went through. Right? Whatever they went through, God used that person as a stick. Right? So I use myself as an example. I had somebody my father knew. Many years did business. Money invested with him. And he had a lot of money invested with him. And this person used it for his own business. He used it for his own business. And it could be, you know, in his egotistical mind, it could be that he took the money and had the business come back. He would have put the money back, right? I don't think he's a thief to be a thief, right? Necessarily. But he had a big ego. So he thought, okay, I'll take this money. It's not mine. Doesn't matter. I'll put it in my own business. And then, you know, when it gets stronger, I'll put the money back. Maybe that's what he thought, right? Give him the benefit of the doubt. It's no longer in this world, but give him the benefit of the doubt. Now, what happened was kind of above nature because, you know, no one had bad interaction with this person. No one would have expected such a thing. I mean, my father made money with him. He lost money with him. Okay. No one expected something like this, right? Totally out of left field, you know, so to speak. So now, let's analyze the situation. This is what was supposed to happen. This is exactly what was supposed to happen. Yeah, this person was a conduit to do it. Now, does this person make my life a misery? Yes. You know, are there lingering facts? Yes. In different ways. Okay. But what's the bottom line here? God used this person as a stick. Yeah. Now, what he did, he ruined people's lives. Right? Totally ruined some people's lives. But, you know, at the end of the day, God used him to get to me. Or to get to these other people. Yeah. Is he guilty? Yeah. Did he go to jail? Yeah. Only for a year and a half. I'm not going to say what happened afterwards. But I'll put my dirty laundry out there. But just suffice that wasn't good what happened to him in the end. Yeah. For me, anyway. But, you know, at the end of the day, if you're going to break it down, can I hate the person himself? I can say, yeah, maybe scum of the earth. Maybe, you know, deep down, I don't think he had malicious intent. 100%, I don't think he had malicious intent. I think it was ego more than anything else. But okay, because the person's not a thief to be a thief. He got desperate. That's what he did. Okay, right? So a bunch of people paid the price. Now, at the end of the day, God's using this person against me. Now, if he's using this person against me, what's the hashkafa shabai? What is the Torah outlook here? The Torah outlook is, as the Chovos would say, clear. The Torah outlook is that God used him as a stick. Now, if God used him as a stick, you don't have any right to get upset. You don't have a right to get upset because God's using this person. What he did was wrong, right? He got sued, got some money back, whatever. But in the end, I thought for sure he had some money, siphoned off somewhere else, and he didn't. Right? Lawyers checked it out, and he didn't. Whatever. Okay. But at the end of the day, the proper way to look at it, which is not an easy thing. I'm not going to say it's an easy thing by any stretch. What's the proper way to look at it? Is he guilty? Oh, yeah. Can I hate what he did? Oh, yeah. Can I hate the person himself? God's going to say no. You're not allowed to hate the person. Right? Now, could be. Yeah, some people are evil incarnate. There are people like that. Just terrific people. And someone who's ever been acted against their will, someone stole, did other things, whatever it may be, it's going to be very hard to keep this. It's going to be very hard to say, hate the action, not the person. The person's scumbag, scum of the earth, right? Let's say, you're totally scum, right? Right? But we have to realize one thing, and this is not an easy thing, seeing the bigger picture. But the reality is, God is only using this person as a stick. The person as a stick is guilty. There's nothing to talk about. The person himself is guilty. Good. But God used that person to get to you. See, this is where difficulty comes in. Because if we're going to say God is all good, well, how did this happen? Right? Obviously, things that go on in our lives, we are punished for sin. No one's been in this world that hasn't sinned, even though there are only a handful of people, the Gemara says, that have died because Adam and Eve ate from the tree of life, tree of knowledge. Yeah, only a handful of individuals. Everyone else dies. Why? Because we have to die, but usually because of sin. Everybody has sinned at some level, right? So that is punishment. Now you're going to say, certain things happens against my will. Totally against my will. You're right. Totally against your will. So we could say, if a person initiated other things, whatever they may be, you didn't want it. You didn't ask for it. So what happened? Your soul has to go through it. Why does your soul have to go through it? If I knew that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I'd be world famous. Yeah. Why we can blame it on that. Because there are things that don't make sense logically. Yeah. Why is a child born, as Kushner's son, was born an 80-year-old and 10-year-old body? Had that aging disease, progeria, whatever it's called, right? And he died. It's tragic. But he said, well, I'm not such a bad person. Either is my wife, and therefore God doesn't run the world. Yeah. That was his book, famous book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. New York Times bestseller. I mean, a lot of people feel good without taking any responsibility for your life. Now, if that child is not punishable, right, because you have to be, either 12 in a day or 13 in a day, right, or up to the age of 20, say if you're not punishable, it can't be the child's fault. Cannot be the child's fault. So where does the punishment come in? The soul had to go through whatever it has to go through to be in that messed up body. Yeah? Whether it gets leukemia, gets this disease, something else, whatever suffering, let's say it's mentally challenged, whatever suffering the child goes through, it's not punishment for the child, right? It's punishment for the soul. Because it's not possible to be punished in this world if you're underage. Impossible. Right? According to Torah, it's impossible. Doesn't work that way. You have to be guilty. Right? The person has to be guilty of sin of doing something to get punished. Very good. So now what happens? What happens in such a case? Child's born mentally challenged. Or a child is born sick. Yeah. Some horrific disease. I'm not saying they die. They die from it, but the parents have to deal with it. as a horrific disease, whatever it may be. It can't be punishment for the child. So it's punishment for that soul. That soul has to come back in this world to be in a messed up body for whatever reason, right? Reincarnation, whatever reason. Now, in some ways, as I say, is a partial, the partial thing here. Partial, what I say, partial consolation. And that is because, intellectually I could understand that. Intellectually, that makes sense, according to the Torah. Problem is, when you have to go through it, and you have to live it, even if you came to that conclusion, if a person was acted upon against their will, they hate the person for what they did. No question. No question. I didn't ask what happened to me happen. Not at all. It's above nature. As my Rebbe says many times, I take the money out. It's like, no, you're making good money. Well, you don't have to worry about it. Till my father couldn't get money out. They told me I tried to get money out. Whatever, it's already too late. Yeah. So that was meant to be. Now other people said, oh, we took our money out, we did it. Okay. I thought want to take out their money, and they lost it a number of years later. Bad business deal. And all went up. So what's the difference? That would have been worse. Right? If I were to use it for business, let's say, and I would have blown it in business for whatever reason, make you feel worse. Why would it make you feel worse? Because it's yourself, essentially. Or you got bad advice, or whatever the case is. This was something, someone took something they had no right to, right? Torah prohibition. It's called stealing. Yeah, Torah prohibition. Torah prohibition. Okay. Now again, the test is, or part of the test is, that the person has to realize, this is what God wanted. It's not negligence. No reason to think it's negligence. People said I took it out and I did this, I did that. Doesn't matter. Person could have taken it out and blown the money otherwise. In other ways. Okay. This person, was known, to be honorable, got good dividends. So it shouldn't have been an issue. Yeah. Now, can I look at that person the same? Can't look at that person the same. Person caused tremendous damage. No question. Yeah. So that's above nature. That's something, that's something above nature. Now, if somebody's born, and they grow up sickly, or they grow up with other issues, again, that's not punishment for the person. It's punishment for the soul. Soul has to be in a messed up body, or whatever the case is, in order to go through that. Now, even if somebody knows it, and somebody understands that, and someone understands the bigger picture, aren't they probably going to need some serious therapy to get over it? Sure. Can Torah overcome all of it? No. Not going to say that. Torah will not overcome all of it. But if a person, I wish I would have known what I'm saying now years ago. Yeah. I didn't learn from all those years ago. But if I would have known, it would have made it a little bit easier. Made a lot of things actually easier. That and, some other things that I learned, it made things a lot easier to understand and to deal with others in a different way than I ever would have. Yeah. Just to understand, most people, are lunatics. They don't know anything. They deserve to be strung up in Sing Sing in some sort of insane asylum because they're essentially insane, right? They're essentially insane. So why do I take seriously what someone with a 25 IQ is going to say? Yeah. If I would have known this a long time ago, would have caused, would have stopped a lot of aggravation. A lot of aggravation. Because now if I hear something, someone's going to say, I'm going to go, bink, I'm going to knock it off. I'm not going to react, really. Right? And I remember someone once tried to get under my skin and said, this person got married, right? A non-Jew, whatever, non-Jew, the person thinks they might be Jewish because his father's Jewish, but okay. And so the person, I don't know, make a joke or get under my skin, So the person says, they didn't mention God at the wedding. My reaction was, okay. I was going to say, well, they're not Jewish anyway, so you don't really have to mention God at a wedding. For non-Jews that they live together, that's good enough. Yeah. They don't, according to the Rambam and others, that's called marriage, for Noahites. So they don't have to mention God. They don't have to go in front of a justice of peace. They don't have to go in front of anybody to get married civilly. They don't have to do that. They want to, okay, but they don't have to, right? For sure, they don't have to, right? For no. So this person is like, they didn't mention God at the wedding. You know what my answer was? Okay. No, Jews can do what they want. I didn't say that. The person would have exploded, right? So I said, okay. Now, is that something kind of obnoxious? Is that kind of obnoxious? Yeah. It's kind of obnoxious. Yeah. So, the question is, does it even deserve an act? Does it deserve a response? Right? Because I always say, if someone asks a question, okay, maybe you should respond. If they make a statement, that's the answer. Oh, or okay. And they didn't mention God at the wedding. Does that sound like a question? It doesn't sound like a question to me. I was like, okay. A younger side of me would have just flattened this person like a pancake. Totally flat. What are you talking about? What do you know? Who cares what they would have done or not? I had 1.5 million things I could have answered. Yeah. Why am I even going to get ruffled? Why am I getting my feathers ruffled about it? I don't know. Do I have feathers? I don't know. Why am I going to get ruffled by it? The person's got a 25 IQ when it comes to Judaism. He's got a 25 IQ. He's going to get under my skin and make fun of it? Oh, we can agree to disagree. Great. You have an answer? Come on, give me an answer. No, you're a fanatic. I know I'm a fanatic. Give me an answer. Because most people know that story. Give me an answer. No. You're going to let it get under my skin? No, it's good for these classes. Yeah. Because people are obnoxious. People can be obnoxious. Good. I take what they say seriously. They get upset. Yeah, a person's going to say, if a parent would say it, a sibling would say it, a child would say it. It hurts. You're right. It hurts. You know what? Person's got to realize one day you're going to have to come to the conclusion these people are, I'm going to say it, but it's not politically correct. These people are retarded. Yeah. We'll say mentally challenged so I don't get banned from YouTube, right? They're mentally challenged. Okay. I am not going to take what a mentally challenged person says seriously. It's annoying. I would agree. It's annoying. And if they slobber you and they push you in this and that, it's annoying. I'd agree. I would agree. I'm not going to let it get under my skin. There are more important things to worry about. Yeah, what would you say if I said this? Who cares what you have to say? It doesn't matter. See, it goes both ways. I don't care what I say. So who cares what they say? Yeah. So I can hate what they do. Back to the question. I can actually despise what they do. Yeah. And how horrific their actions are. Yeah. Hating the person themselves. Yeah. Where's my amunah? It's a hard thing. Does God really expect that? It's a hard thing. Right? If you understand how what do you call it? A reincarnated soul comes in the body, and that body's messed up. It's not the punishment of the child. Or let's say above nature. Something happens, right? Person didn't ask for it. It was an onus at best. Yeah. So that person is used to get to them, but it's not really to them, it's their soul. It's their soul has to go through it. Why? Anyone's guess is as good as mine. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But if again, part of the issue is, the person can acknowledge the pain, the person can acknowledge the suffering. But if a person understands intellectually, again, putting it into your heart is a whole different thing. But intellectually understanding, it's not your fault. Right? It's not a person's fault. It's what the soul, again, if it's something that's above nature, that's, a person's under onus. It's not a person's fault, right? A child gets, what do you call it? A child has some sort of disease, right? A horrific disease. Not their fault. Not their fault. Yeah. Someone gets abused by a pedophile. It's not their fault. They're a child. They're certainly not their fault. They're acted on against their will. No one asked for that. Nobody. Or a girl gets raped, very young age. Yeah, same thing. It messes up a lot of people. Again, person may need serious therapy for that. I'm not a therapist by any stretch. I'm just saying, according to Torah, how's the Torah look at it? Torah says these people are bad, right? Right to love them? No. So we don't have to love them. You can hate exactly what they did. People say, but person ruined my life and I hate the person. Okay? It's understandable. I'm not saying it's not understandable. I'm just saying in the bigger scheme of things. In the bigger scheme of things, it's a different issue. Right? It's a hard issue. And I'm not going to say if I would have known what I know now, 20 more than 20 years ago, right, give or take. I'm not going to say it would have helped me every single day. I'm not going to say that, but the more a person says it over and over and over and over, makes it part of their life, so to speak, you got to put it in your hearts. I'm not saying a person may not need medication. A person may need therapy. True. I'm saying, from a Torah perspective, it's not gonna uproot it. It's for sure not gonna uproot it. Yeah. But if I understand how things work, in the bigger scheme of things, it takes it down a lot. Right? Or it takes it, let's say better, it takes it down some. Right? Well, I know people have been abused that, yeah, they have good days, they have bad days. For some people say they're mostly bad days. Okay. Right? I can't judge that. I'm just saying, understanding the bigger picture, no matter what the person did, even understanding the bigger picture. Yeah, what if they'll murder your whole family? You gotta love them? No. What do people say? What do people say, God forbid, like here in Israel, that Arabs, killed loved ones or blew them up or different things. Yeah. They have a lot of strength. They said this is the way they were supposed to go. They don't like it. It changes the whole family structure and all that. That's true. But that's where Muna kicks in, because things don't happen for no reason. Can it mess them up psychologically later? Sure. Again, it's trauma. I'm not pushing away trauma here. I'm just saying from a Torah perspective. From a Torah perspective, it's seeing the bigger picture, understanding how the bigger picture works. Right? That is a big part of it. That's a big part of it. Now, psychologists may disagree, and they say, no, they've been through a trauma. They have to deal with the trauma. And different ways to deal with it, different therapies and this. Okay. Some people get over better, some people not. I can't argue that. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, seeing the bigger picture, I think can help. It can help to a certain extent. Somebody here asks, I learned somewhere that a person stole and did not pay back. In this life, it could come back in reincarnation. Right. However, what if the person cheated the government through taxes? It's also stealing. Right? They stole from an entity. They stole from Uncle Sam, yeah? It's also stealing. Right? Could they come back in a reincarnated soul? Why not? Not the same as stealing directly from one person. But if they stole potentially, yeah, they could definitely come back, even though they stole from an entity, right? Like the U.S. government, right? They can for sure come back that way, right? I don't think we discriminate on that. I don't think we say I don't think there's any difference. Stealing is stealing, right? Whether you stole from an entity or not. The question would be something like this: that the question would be, let's say you defrauded the government. You defrauded the government, say before you die. Defrauded the government, you got money you didn't deserve. Yeah, you lied basically. You got money you didn't deserve. Do you have to go back to the government and say, I got money I didn't deserve, and you could potentially go to jail? You don't have to go. No. No one's going to say you have to go to jail. No one says you have to do that. Right? So if you can't give it back, so you should give it to the public. Right? Whatever money was stolen. Let's say you can't give it to the IRS, so give it to, I don't know, some public services, whatever the amount is over time. But to turn yourself into, basically you're going to say, okay, I'm going to be so honest and say that, that they defrauded the government or whatever, they're going to put you in jail. No, there's no means to do that. None. Not to do that. But if it's an entity, let's say like the government, could you come back for that? Yeah, I don't see the difference, whether it's a single individual or not. What if it's a wicked government? Doesn't matter. If it's let's say Some people here in Israel will say it's a big mitzvah to defraud the government, right? Meaning for taxes, right? They won't admit certain money that's coming in. They'll only pay minimal amount because they say there's no din d'malchus adina. There's no letter of the law here. Plus, they're taking too much money anyway, and it's all corrupt and this and that, right? Some people make such a claim. Some people make such a claim. Now, other people would say, even so, even if that's true, what happens if you get caught? Let's say you get caught. What's going to happen? That's going to be desecration of God's name. In the worst way. You know why? Because you look like an Orthodox Jew. You're defrauding the government. Now, it's interesting. Here a lot of times tax authorities will go, businesses, and just like audit them automatically, right? Random. Why? Because they know you're paying, it's a high tax rate, high tax bracket. They know everyone's hiding money somewhere. And they know that. They're not stopping the way, the way they're doing taxes, but they know. They know people are not declaring what they should be declaring. Now, if a person has an all-cash business, I know somebody like that many years ago, they declared what they wanted to declare. Yeah, it could be they put, cars and houses and whatever, and, different people's names, but they get to declare what they wanted. Is that fair? They have no receipts. All-cash business. Right? It's also stealing. Right? You got to be smart with money also. Are you allowed to put money in tax-frees and different things so you don't get taxed on it? Why not? That's being smart. It's not illegal, right? That's legal. If you're doing something illegal, it's a different issue. Someone asks, tax in person similar to interest? No, that's a whole different issue. Interest means that for a Jew borrows money from a Jew with interest. That is forbidden, right? Even though Gemara says, it's the way of the world, right? If you borrow, someone borrows from you $100, you say, okay, I'll give you I'll give you 100, you give me 150 back, or 110 back. So it's the way of the world. Why should I lose out giving you money, right? But taxes. No, they have a legal right to take taxes. They absolutely have a legal right to take taxes. It's what funds different things. In the government, they certainly have a right over tax and this and that. Like, many places where Jews work, they overtax them and all that. Yeah, that's illegal. But if that's the way of the law in that place, again, you got to work hard, hiding money or whatever. But that's a different issue. That's corrupt. So you can say, is every tax authority corrupt? I don't know. I don't know if every tax authority is corrupt. They want what they want, so they have their own laws. But that's not the same thing as lending with interest. That's a whole different thing. That's a whole different thing. Is the government in general allowed to, overtax people? No, that's forbidden. 100% that's forbidden. That comes even for non-Jews. That comes under law courts. It has to be legal, right? Right? You can't do things illegally, so to speak. And let's say that's part of the government policy. That's illegal. That's for sure is illegal. That's not charging with interest. That's a whole different prohibition, right? Here you just have a corrupt government, or you have corrupt courts. Corrupt courts for sure you have, right? That I don't think there's anything to talk about. Yeah, people on the take and different things. So by government, you would think that hopefully tax authorities are on the up and up, so to speak. And they charge what they charge. Yeah, if you get around it, there are legal loopholes. Good. There is a, I would say, moral issue. If it's a legal loophole, should I use it? Maybe you're not allowed to use it morally, right? What's the answer? If it's legal, it's legal. I can use it. I don't have to be holier than thou. If it's legal, I can use it. Then I should be able to use it, right? It shouldn't be an issue. What if the government uses taxes for wicked causes? Oh, we get this all the time, right? We have that here. That money. Let's say that goes to taxes. Sometimes it go to things like soccer stadiums or other things. So a person can say, "Well, I'm not going to pay taxes because it's going to terrible things." Well, if that's what they do, that's not your fault. You don't get punished for that. right? You will not get punished for that. What they do with it is their business. Yeah, if they say, well, if I pay less in taxes, they won't be able to give as much. Okay. But I would tell you, if it's something you get caught with, yeah, there's going to be hell to pay. Right? My accountant said, right, a number of years ago that, whatever you're going to pay, you do not want to start up with it. The tax authorities are people you don't want to mess with. Right? That's the rule of thumb. Anywhere. They can seriously mess you up for life. Yeah, or longer. Or longer. Right? So even if they would give to wicked causes, it's not your fault. Some people would say, I'm going to cut corners and do this and do that, so they'll give less money for these corrupt things. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, first of all, the law of the land is what it is. Right? Let's say part of your taxes goes to, I don't know, LGBTQ, or it goes to, I don't know, transgender things or whatever. Yeah? You're not telling them to send it there. They do it. Yeah? So you can say, well, I'm going to lie. I'm going to say I make less money, this and that. So good. Maybe you could do that, but the law of the land's the problem. But let's say you could do that. You found a way to do it. I'm going to tell you, if you get caught, you're toast. You're toast in a major way. Right? That's not your liability. Your liability is whatever the tax is that you got to pay, whatever it may be, you got to pay it. Right? You got to pay. You don't play games with tax authority. Right? I remember I was taking real estate mentorship, with somebody, and he was saying, if people make LLCs, right, limited liable corporations, they get taxed less and different things, and he basically said, if you're making money, and you're making good money, good, pay it, be happy and pay taxes, because this non-Jew was saying, and again, this was echoed, and they're saying you don't mess with them. You don't mess with them. Bottom line. So even if they're giving to things that are illegal, it's not your problem. They go against Torah, that's not your issue. Does a Jew, regardless of how destructive he or she is, have a better chance the world to come to the righteous Gentiles? Certainly not. If they're really evil, they could get obliterated. God could give them, God could give this guy, billions of dollars. Why is he getting billions of dollars? Because he probably did a mitzvah once in his life. So he has to give him reward for the mitzvah that he did. Okay. You think he's going to have a great portion of the world to come? He's probably going to get obliterated. Right? If he's really that evil. If there's anything left of his soul. Right? So you got to ask, does he have a better chance of the world to come than a righteous Gentile? Hell no. Righteous Gentile have a better chance. Right? This person's in serious trouble. Who says he's going to get there anyway? God could be giving him his olam haba, his portion of the next world, right? In the world to come, he's giving him right now. He's giving him everything now. He's giving him billions to do whatever he wants. Goes against everything God stands for. Great. I mean, not so great. Great. So what's going to happen? God will knock him out. God will take care of him, either in this world or the next or both. So a righteous Gentile have a better chance than this person. Right? Even though they got more mitzvahs that they could do, it doesn't matter. If they're doing it for, doing terrible things, and they've been doing it for years, my guess would be, and again, I'm not saying it's fact, but my guess would be God is giving them their portion of the world to come in this world, and they're going to die like a dog. Right? Not literally, they're just going to go poof, and that's it. They're going to have nothing. They're going to get everything now. Right? That's what happens to, really wicked people. Someone here says, so it's Machal Shabbos, right? That's a great Shabbos, so no portion of the world to come. Yep. If he doesn't repent, right? Right. But I'm saying, like, if he does terrible things, God could just be setting him up in this world, and next world he gets nothing. It's an angel regardless of how wicked you're right, he's still a Jew. That's not the point. If he does a great Shabbos in public, he loses the status of a Jew, unless he repents. If he goes against any of the 13 principles of faith of Maimonides or the Rambam, loses his portion of the world to come. He can repent. I'm not saying he can't repent, right? A Jew is a Jew, right? But they could lose their portion of the world to come. The Gemara says people could lose their portion of the world to come. When a person gets spiritually cut off for desecrating Shabbos, that doesn't mean they lose a portion of the world to come. That's what it means. And they get, they get killed in this world if there be a Sanhedrin in a temple in Jerusalem. And they get spiritually cut off if they would eat, leavened products on Passover. They don't care. They get spiritually cut off. A lot of things a person gets spiritually cut off for. So just because the Jew is a Jew does not mean they have a portion of the world to come. Their soul could get obliterated. Depends how bad they are. Most people are not that bad. They're not going to get obliterated. Some people will. Some people will. The vast majority won't. It doesn't matter if they know better or they don't know better. You think this guy's ever learned the alphabet? He knows anything about Judaism? Of course not. Yeah, it doesn't mean what he's doing is good. It doesn't, ignorance isn't bliss, but for goodness sakes, why should he have a portion of the world to come? If he does all these things that forfeit his portion of the world to come, unless he seriously repents, he's not going to get there. Period. Doesn't matter if a Jew is a Jew. A Jew could lose their portion of the world to come. A lot easier than a non-Jew in many ways, because we have a lot more mitzvahs. God gives people gives opportunity, free choice, right? Right. So therefore, if someone taps into evil against your will, they have free choice, and we have free choice how we're going to react. Also, yeah, a person can say, well, look what they did, and look how bad, and this and that, and I'm giving up Judaism. A person can make that decision. A person can say, God put them in a situation too hard to deal with, right? So they spit in God's face. Okay, how's God going to judge it? We're here to work. We're here to toil. It's not easy. Some people have it really hard. Some people have it easier. Some people, it depends. But our reactions depend on what we do. Someone told me this 20 years ago, and I'm not there. Not holding there. Not holding there per se. End of the day, as hard as it may be. So yeah, different ways, I've dealt with it over the years. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes not. But at the end of the day, am I the same person? No. Would I be able to speak in these terms because of it? Yes. Right? I'm not going to say I'm an expert per se, but I went through it. Certainly went through it. Right? So someone who goes through it and has that experience, it's a whole different thing. Listen, a person could give strength even if they didn't go through it very good. Could very well do that. It's not the same as you went through it yourself, right? So you grow from it. Some people can get broken by it, but that's all God wants. He doesn't want you to be broken by it. He wants you to grow from it. It could be, how's God going to extract, this ability from you, put you in that situation? You didn't ask for it. You're right. You didn't ask for it, right? But it made you who you are, right? It gave you strength, right? In many ways. Again, someone who doesn't go through it can empathize and speak about it, whatever. Someone who went through it and was able to overcome it, to a great extent, and able to see the bigger picture, that's much stronger. Much, much stronger. Right now, was that the reason why I had to go through it? No idea. No idea. But did it change who I am? 100%. 100%. A lot of ways. A lot of ways for the positive. Can't take things for granted. A person's got a lot of money, you can take a lot of things for granted. Yeah. A person's got limited money, you can't take many things for granted. Right? Because you're limited. Very good. You're limited. So that's the test. The test of the someone who's got a lot of money. The test is he's going to thank God for what he has. The test for someone who's got limited money is he going to thank God even for the little that he has or that she has. It's a test. It's a test either way. Right? It's a test either way. Why didn't uproot the sin of the golden calf? How was he supposed to? He wanted to annihilate the entire Jewish nation except for Moses. How was he supposed to do that? Right? God said, if I dwell amongst the Jewish people, I'll kill everybody. And I'll start with Moses again. So instead, he takes it out on every generation. Right? That sin was never totally uprooted. This, take it one step further. What about the sin of Adam and Eve? Why didn't God uproot that? Can't. Because they brought death to the world. That has to happen. So that's not totally uprooted. That'll only be uprooted when the Messiah comes and all that. Then people, then there'll be resurrection, right? Sometime after that, there'll be resurrection. But there are certain things that the sin does not get uprooted, right? It's painful. Why thousands of years later we have to sin? We have to suffer for the sin of the spies, right? Because we didn't learn the lesson. That's one of the reasons we didn't learn the lesson. You know what the lesson of the spies is? You can't speak Lashon Hara. And if you speak Lashon Hara against the land of Israel, you're toast. You're toast. That's why Mordechai Pogromansky tells the Eul, your blessed memory, didn't want to come to Israel. Didn't want to come to live in Israel. Maybe want to get a blessing from him. Didn't want to come. Why didn't he want to come? And he said, every time you're in the palace of the king, you speak badly against someone else or whatever, punishment's 10 times greater. But if you speak Lashon Hara against someone else outside of Israel, it's also bad. Also more than 30 prohibitions. Yeah, but if you're in the palace of the king, I mean, think about it. I'm not going to get into politics, but I'm going to mention one thing. For a whole year, before what happened on October 7th, there were demonstrations left and right, split the entire country. Demonstrations left and right. Yeah, mostly from the left. Yeah, about the whole thing of judicial reform. Everyone agrees. Everyone agrees the high court has way too much power here. There's no question. Imagine Congress. Every time Congress made a law, whatever, Supreme Court knocks it off in things that have no jurisdiction in. When they say separation, they have too much power. Everyone agrees with that. Even the left agrees with that. They just think we're going to take it too far. You had a whole year, Lashon Hara Fest on both sides. Lashon Hara Fest left and right for a whole year. You don't think at some point, again, this isn't the land of Israel, not other places. Other places could be just as bad. Very good. Yeah, but if it happened in the palace of the king, more than 30 prohibitions in one shot, look what happened here. Is it any one? I'm not saying that's the reason. That's the reason. Obviously, it was a divine decree. That's not the point, right? The point is you have, such hatred, such animosity, trying to bring this government down, for goodness sakes. And everyone agrees in principle, that, the Supreme Court needs to be reined in. I don't think anyone disagrees with that, in many ways. But you had such infighting, that's what destroyed the Second Temple. Right? Lashon Hara, sinas chinam, unlawful hatred. So you're gonna say, what about the sin of the spies? Have we got that message? Isn't there a tremendous amount of unlawful hatred across the board? Secular Jews, religious Jews here in Israel and other places, across the board. Yeah. That's why the temple has been rebuilt. Exactly the reason. It happens every day. Right? It keeps going on. It hasn't stopped. They had a whole year. They had a whole Lashon Hara Fest for a year. More than a year. They're still demonstrating, trying to get this government out. Yeah? For a whole year. I don't think it's a coincidence. But that's really bad because you're in the palace of the king and that's what you're doing. Not to mention there are other terrible things going on, but that's for a whole year. This is going on. Whole year. It's so funny because people demonstrate against the government even if they don't know anything what's going on. They're like, no, this is democracy. So someone who came here, comes here once a year, usually for a number of months. I said, I saw this picture of you at this demonstration. I was like, do you even know what the demonstration is? It's democracy. That wasn't my question. My question was, do you know what they're demonstrating against? Do you know what the Supreme Court does? So let me explain to you a few things. Yeah? You tell me it's democracy? You don't know your arm from your elbow. Right? What's going on. Someone else, scream at me and the government this, the government that. I'm like, do you understand what the issue is? Explain to me what the issue is, why they're so upset. Why are they so upset? Why are they demonstrating? Don't they agree it's a problem with the Supreme Court? People don't know the issues. Free Palestine, they don't know the issues. They just hate Jews and want them to die. Yeah, it's not it's not about logic. It's not about issues here. From the river to the sea means there are no Jews here, and all the Arabs agree with that. Right? Didn't I say I wasn't going to speak about politics? Right? They all agree. It's all brought down in the in the quote unquote Palestinian charter. Israel cannot exist. So the Palestinians are Hamas and vice versa. No different. Totally not different. So the fact that it gets, I would agree, the fact that it gets repeated day in and day out, In all this Lashon Hara, don't you think that's why the temple hasn't been rebuilt? It's a good reason. I mean, it's horrific. I mean, it's it's horrific. Well, someone ever said, didn't they repent? Even if they did repent, it didn't help. That's how severe the sin was. They lacked faith. These were great people, lacked faith. And they spoke Lashon Hara against the state of Israel. So what is that? The land of Israel, right? What does that tell you? What exactly does that tell you? I'll tell you what it tells you. Don't speak Lashon Hara against the land of Israel. Right? There are certain things that are irrevocable. Irrevocable. So here you got the greatest generation in the history of man. You got 10 great men. 2 of them don't speak Lashon Hara, the rest do against the land of Israel. Great people. Yeah, they felt bad about what they did. God says, too late. You spoke against my land? You spoke against my holy land? Why should you accept repentance on that? You say, but doesn't God accept repentance on everything? Okay, they got repentance to a certain extent, right? But not full. They didn't get full repentance. Jewish people, same thing by the sin of the golden calf. They didn't get full repentance. Moses says, wipe me out of your book. God said, no, I'm not going to do that. So still collect the punishment. That's not full punishment. That's not full repentance. He didn't accept their full repentance. There's payback. Even if it was done. Right? Even if they repented, so what do you see? Certain things, even if a person repents, doesn't help. May not help fully. May get some sort of atonement, but not fully. Look at work as a tax professional. Yeah, why not? As a JIT or as a Jew, there are plenty of come on, secular Jew is one of the best professions to go into, be an accountant. The accountant, the lawyer, the doctor, become a doctor. Yeah, why not? I mean, I think it's a hard profession, but can a person do it? Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. But again, you have people that are corrupt also in the IRS, as well, which, I'm sure there are people corrupt in every profession, right? But, can you do it? Sure. What's the problem? Would have to audit someone that's Jewish or is Orthodox. So what's the problem? It's your job. Yeah, that's your job. All right, it's going to cause them problems, this and that. They do things against the law. They're guilty, right? Why does the government policy take Jewish property and exterminate? So again, that's a different issue. So, if that's the law of the land is corrupt, which a lot of it is, okay, so I can do whatever I can to save my property if possible, or save money, right? That's not, they say, well, that's going against the law. Well, what if the law is corrupt? And going against the law doesn't matter because they're corrupt anyway. So, yeah, so a person can hide money, they could lie, right? That's what they say about this guy, about Israel in general. Totally corrupt other things. So it's a mitzvah to hide money. It's a mitzvah to pay much less in taxes. But again, I would tell you, even if that's true, even if the rabbinic authorities would say 100%, there's no law of the land in Israel, they will tell you if you're legal, you better darn well pay your taxes. They will tell you, if you find legal loopholes, okay. If you get, and let's say you want to hide money, different things, good. What if you get caught? Right? That's the whole thing. People come to Israel, there are 2 lines at the airport. One is, if you have something to declare, tax-wise, and other lines, the other line is not. Now, even if you go in the other line, you don't have anything to declare, they could randomly check you, right? So, it used to be electronics were, double, triple, 3, 4 times the price. So what do people do? They buy in the States, they buy, outside of Israel and bring it in, not declare it. Why? Because taxes are absurd, right? So there are different opinions. There were different opinions, according to rabbinic authorities, right? According to great rabbis of generation. One opinion was you got to clear it anyway, right? Full disclosure, right? Another opinion was you don't have to clear anything. Third opinion, somewhere in the middle, was that if you're not going to declare it, you better not get caught. Right? In other words, it's not a problem not to declare it because what they're doing is just crazy. But at the end of the day, you better be careful not to get caught. If there's a possibility you get caught, then you can't do it. Those are really the three opinions. Somebody says sell the property and run. Well, you can't always do that, right? It's not. Like people in South Africa, they got problems. First of all, the rand's not worth that much, but they can't take the money out. Very hard to get the money out. Other people do it. They take out, they make it impossible to take out money, so they take it out in artwork, right? Some people buy artwork or other things, get it out of the country and sell it, right? That's the way to do it. You can't, it's very easy to say sell it and move, right? You can't, it's very hard to do that. Right? Not so easy to do that. That's why a lot of people fled, Europe, fled to America, right? Just, corruptness and anti-Semitism, right? Mostly anti-Semitism, but couldn't live in these places. People were just ecstatic to get out of Russia if they could have. Former Soviet Union, it's beyond corrupt, right? It's just they made it impossible to live as a Jew. That's why a lot of people wanted to leave. What if somebody? See, hit a raw nerve here. What if somebody lives in a corrupt society, makes laws to preserve that corrupt society? So again, some places are better, some places are worse. Something like that. Like Sodom. What did God do? He wiped them out. He totally wiped them out. So they're not going to be wiped out. Yeah, you should try and leave. Possible. You can't live in such a place. You cannot live in such a place. Yeah, all the laws can be interpreted with depends upon policy judge if you pay someone off, right? That's a problem. It's definitely a problem. It's corruptness all around, right? And most places are like that. Some better, some worse, right? Or it depends on how much you pay them. Yeah, listen, in other places, you can get away with things. You buy people off, right? You pay people off. And that's part of what people do. So, if you're in a place, that's what people do. That's what you do. That's what you have to do. I would say, if that's the way of the world, then getting caught, you're not worried. Because you're gonna if you're gonna bribe somebody, let's say, they're gonna say, "Oh, who are you to bribe me?" They know what you're doing, right? When they know what you're doing. Yeah, that's not a problem, right? That's not a problem, right? It depends. There are places, yeah, that are, that are pretty corrupt. Some people get stuck; they can't leave, right? But again, if things go against, what the Torah says and are totally illegal, then yeah, then you have recourse. It doesn't matter what the law of the land is. Corrupt. If it's totally corrupt, yeah, and you do what you can. And I'm talking about a place that, okay, maybe it's corrupt, maybe, right? But again, that doesn't, that doesn't necessarily give a person a right to steal from them, right? That's a different issue, right? If it's common policy to pay people off, that's not a problem, right? When it says giving bribes that the Torah forbids, that's only by rabbinic court judges. That's not talking about the masses. It's talking about rabbinic court judges. That's a different issue, right? But if it's the way of that country, that in order to get things done, you got to bribe people. It happens all the time, right? There are many cases, that the rabbis bring down that they had problems. So the only way around the problem was to bribe people, right? There was a decree against Jews. What did they do? They bribed the government. Asaph can be bribed, right? So they bribed. That's the way of the world. That's what you have to do to survive, right? Sometimes Jewish people or Jewish communities were threatened to be wiped out. Different things, bad decrees, and they were able to bribe them because then you do what you got to do, It doesn't matter. No, if you can get away with something where you can bribe someone, it doesn't matter how much you pay them, right? But again, if you have connections, and that's the way of getting out of problems, so that's what you do. If that's the case, you don't have to go to jail, or whatever. If you get a way, to fix the problem, otherwise the person's going to jail, and you can bribe somebody or whatever. I would say that it's probably allowed, right? It's probably allowed, but you better make sure you don't get caught if that's the case. If everybody does it, okay. So, why can't you be like everyone else, right? But if a person gets snitched on or whatever, they get caught. That's going to be, a problem. Again, if a person, Someone points out a very good point. If you're living in such a place, that's dangerous about taxes. Like either you try and get out, or listen, you just do what you got to do. These are people you don't want to mess with. Tax authorities like a mafia also. They can do all kinds of things. They can do all kinds of things. They don't need any rhyme or reason either. They don't. It could be totally random. Totally random. And they call it the way they see it, not the way you see it. Right? So, that would put the fear of God in anyone if they get audited. Right? They get audited. So, you do the best of your ability. Whatever you do legal, you take care of. Right? You gotta take care of. So here it's good if a person works for a company, the company takes care of all taxes and all that. If you work as an independent, okay, so you have to have an accountant. You have to, you have to declare what you have to declare. Figure out a way how to bring your tax liability down. What about getting caught and antagonizing the government? Can also be right. 100% can also be a desecration of God's name. You're right. You're antagonizing government, right? Isn't a chilul Hashem only in front of 10 Jews, not secular government? That's a technical definition. Technical definition, desecration of God's name has to be in front of 10 Jews. You're right. We throw around desecration of God's name like a rag doll. It's been totally misinterpreted. But basically, you're doing something that makes all Jews look bad if you get caught. Right? 100%. By secular governments, non-Jewish government, or even here, by secular government. All they need is a religious Jew to get caught doing something. Like they have a field day. They have a field day. And even, let's say, they got caught doing something. It's massive. Desecration of God's name. Even if it's not technically that definition, it makes one of the things Rashi says at the end of Yuma, the end of Tractate Yuma, is that people are going to learn bad things from what you did. That's desecration of God's name. Not the technical definition in front of 10 Jews. Yeah, that's bad. That for sure is bad. Right? So, that could lead to that, and that's bad. That's for sure bad. Again, secular Jews do it, doesn't make big news. Because that happens all the time. People are corrupt. They have nothing guiding them. Orthodox Jews get caught short. That's big news. That's big news. They see, look what they do. They're on the take. They do these things. They do other things. They're not perfect. They don't have to be perfect. One thing has nothing to do with another. When it says things like Ukraine and Russia's holding that way, listen, Russia's plenty corrupt before. I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question. Plenty corrupt before. Someone there says by Ukraine, someone lost their luggage, bribed someone, that's how they found it. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's so bad. It could be so bad, like you just take your losses and leave. Right? I would say, try and sell, try and get something, but if it's that corrupt or whatever, you leave. Try and take as much as you can with you. That's what some people are saying, in the States, just get out while you can now. Whatever money you have, just get out. It's going to get a lot worse. Then you won't be able to take money out. I've heard people screaming about this for years, for a number of years. So, do I think it's going to happen? It could. I'm not, I don't know. I'm not such a big believer in it, but I don't know. I think a lot of places are corrupt, so you got to be careful wherever you are. Yeah, I'm going to end this one. Let me see anything else. In the Holocaust, for instance, people just, they had no choice. So that was different. They had no choice. Some of them that, they're able to see they were able to get out. They just, lost everything, but they left. My grandfather, I think when they were in Russia, they were doing very well financially, and the communists took over, and that was it. Lost everything. Lost everything. They left. How can you stay in such a place? They just confiscate everything. China's no different. Someone was telling me, yeah, you live in a building, whatever. They say, okay, we're building a highway, you get 30 days. Yeah, I got 30 days to get out. Maybe 30 days to get out. I've been living here. Get out, or we're going to throw you out. Some countries, some countries you're dealing with. It's just not normal. Yeah. So you should be thankful, where everyone is. It's not as corrupt, but yeah, it's corruption all over. In every field, there's corruption. Right? Government's massive corruption. Massive corruption. But again, even if they're using things that we wouldn't agree with, very good. Yeah, it's not a reflection on us, right? It's not a reflection on us, but sometimes it gets really that bad. Person should go, right? If they, again, if they have property, whatever they can sell, then get out. If possible, I mean, the only safe place today, is Israel. Nowhere else is safe. Certainly for Jews. That writing's certainly on the wall. That writing's certainly on the wall. So, after October 7th, someone's telling me in a very religious neighborhood somewhere in the States, all these Jews, they're not coming here, they're getting guns. They're getting guns to protect themselves. Okay. Right? And people are going to say, well, it's so dangerous here, this and that. It's much more dangerous here than there. I beg to differ. Even though we get a lot more publicity, and seemingly it seems that more things happen here than other places, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad in a lot of places. Yeah, at least there you know who the enemy is. Pretty clear who the enemy is. They're like, someone told me they were here. When were they here? They were here. I don't know, by the whole by after Sukkot they were here. But during Sukkot they were here. They're from England. They were telling me that, like, you just don't know. Person next to you, you have no idea. You have no idea. And he was echoing the same thing. Here, you know who the enemy is. It's clear. Yeah, there is infighting amongst Jews, but like, once a Jew acts more like a non-Jew, the crime and everything else is by Arabs. Yeah, but the serious things are by Arabs. You know who the enemy is. Yeah, you absolutely know who the enemy is. Other places, you have no idea who the enemy is. You have no idea. Anyway, I got to run, so I got to stop here. I do this every Sunday. A lot of good questions here. Keep me on my toes. Yeah.
Can I ask you just one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Zechariah, about the 10 from the nations grabbing hold of the zitzits of a rabbi, right? Of a Jew.
Of a Jew, right?
Right. And I've thought about that in the past, but now I've never seen a surgeons among Jews talking about Aliyah and just, going back and forth on it and discussing it. And I think they're getting ready. And so is that when 10 from the nations might grab and say, please just take us with you,
I don't know. I've heard people say that people I come in contact with, they say what happened on October 7th, that was like, okay, now I'm ready. Now I'm gonna, not necessarily, move, somewhere in Israel, but to move in a sense where, I want to get this conversion done because, this is really important. So I've gotten this question a lot. Is there so much of a surge? And my answer is it could be it's a pushing point to the extent where a person might get pushed to actually now start it and do things and whatever. But most people I come in contact have been involved in this for years. Now it's just okay. This is a this is a push. Now, you could say, there are a lot of people talking about it. Okay. How many people are actually doing something? Right? Actively. Now, my daughter was just in the States for Passover, and she actually was staying the same neighborhood where she grew up. I lived in New Jersey, and it's an ultra-Orthodox community there, Lakewood, New Jersey. And it's just ironic, like people she spoke to, like very, very religious, very serious, about Judaism. No inkling whatsoever to come to Israel. None. Even after what happened. Right? They don't have one inkling to come. Now, if you're going to tell them they got good reason not to come, i.e., livelihoods, family, they have to look over other things. Okay. They learn better there, whatever. You can have a lot of good excuses. If you don't have an excuse, well, then why is the person not here? Especially after everything's done. Everything's happened. So I would say, first of all, to uproot and all that is hard. But I would say as much talk as there is, even if your claim is true, as much talk as people saying, yeah, we're going to get out, we're going to do this, going to do that. How many people really going to come? How many people really going to come? I don't see the masses coming, right? And it could be, maybe a lot of people finally say, okay, this is getting really bad. We're going to leave. It might be too late. those borders might be shut down. It's like it happened in the Holocaust, right? Could happen, right? I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're there yet, but it's. I mean, you see what's going on in college campuses. This and that anti-Semitism is up like 300% in different places. It's absolutely insane, right? But there's a difference between talking about it and doing it. Big difference, right? If I would see like masses of people are coming, okay, let's see. Let's see masses of people coming. I don't think masses of people are coming. People are too comfortable where they are. So they'll deal with the non-Jews. They'll lock up on, they'll pack a piece or a couple pieces, right? They'll carry guns. They'll carry guns. Anyone comes to them, they'll shoot them first. Okay. But the vast majority are not coming. They're not interested in coming. They want to keep what they have, right? They're going to say, we're here to stay. And we're going to stay. I heard the secular Jews say, okay, right? They're there to stay. They don't want to give up what they have. They'll give up what they have when they have no choice, but they want to give it up. Who wants to give up a big house and luxuries that they have and, coming here and have to deal with the Arabs and deal with Israelis and, in smaller places, it's more crowded and like all these different things. People don't want to come. People don't want to do it, period. Anyway, that's going to be the last question. I got to run. Any questions, find me on Facebook, Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com. Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos, Q&As, ethics of our fathers, Book of Leviticus Chapter 17, Book of Leviticus in general. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBIChaimCoffman @gmail.com.